All right, Humphrey, darling. Just one more. But a lot of tonic this time. I'd hate to get tipsy and disgrace myself on your show.
Why not, Drusilla?
Oh, darling, you haven't met Humphrey Dean. This is my wife, Steve.
Hello, nice to meet you.
How are you, Drusilla?
Marvellous, darling, simply marvellous.
Good.
Touch outraged by the fee the shark has offered me, but apart from that...
Oh, Miss Dalton, excuse me. Mr. Margolis is here.
Oh, excuse me.
Yes, darling.
Help yourselves to drinks, will you?
Well, thank you, darling.
So you two know each other, then?
Believe it or not, I cut my journalistic teeth reviewing those charming books of yours, didn't I, Paul?
Yes, you did. I don't think I ever thanked her for that.
So many light years away now. Was I in favour of them?
You slang them one by one. That's why the sales were so good.
Darling! She's not going to be on the show, is she? She will show me up for the perfect fraud that I am.
This is such a rabbit
Paul, I'd like you to meet
Mr. Margolis.
Oh, you know each other already.
Yes. Well, for me. Thank you. Who's, Oh. What's this?
Oh, yes.
How is she?
Thank you, darling.
Oh, she'll be all right.
Darling, what are these?
They came this morning.
Fan mail already. Janine, you are monstrous. You'll do anything to get your performer's adrenaline flowing, won't you?
Handwritten block capitals in ballpoint. Have we all got the same message?
What's it say?
Lucia Valtrak is dead. If you find her murderer tonight, there'll be another death.
Paul, surely you're not going to take these letters seriously.
Well, why not? After all, guilty party exists to discuss murders where the murderer was never caught. Well, maybe somebody's getting nervous.
The murderer, you mean?
Wouldn't you if you thought the truth was going to come out?
All right, shouldn't we do something about these notes,
You're
then?
damn right we should. May I?
Where are you going, the police?
And waste good publicity material.
Everything else.
I think I need another drinky, darling. Who else is going to be on the show?
Just everyone here and those people from Fetching.
The Godfreys, you mean?
They're in makeup now.
Well, what about Miss Armadine? Isn't she coming?
Armadine? Who on earth's she? A character out of one of your early novels?
She ought to be. She is odd enough.
Well, I thought she was rather crucial to your murder inquiry.
Ah, she was never much help to us at the time. She's only here tonight because of Mrs. Godfrey and Maurice, the son.
Mother, I do wish you wouldn't use that expression.
All I said was you look queer. Makeup on a man is not natural.
Oh, Mrs. Godfrey, Janine Dalton. Hello, Mr. Godfrey.
Howdy, go.
Now, do come along and have a drink.
Oh, thank you, I don't. It's against my principles.
Oh, I see. Perhaps an orange juice.
Fresh oranges?
I don't think so.
Oh, thank you, no.
Mr. Godfrey, would you like a drink?
Bless you. I'll have a gin and Angostura.
I leave you to it,
Only,
Jenny.
please, not too brutal with the bitters. Getting to sign their names in that ridiculous autograph book of hers.
I'm afraid to say she hasn't come yet, and we're getting a bit worried.
Well, she caught the train before ours. Said she had some wool to buy in Regent Street. Ought to be here by now.
Which train was she on?
The 11:30 stopping train. She won't travel by expresses. Says they're too fast.
I told you she was odd.
Oh, excuse me. Is this where I'm supposed to be?
Agnes!
Where have you been?
Oh, to the other studios, Eunice, and they were the wrong ones. But they were very good to me, and I got the autograph of Tom Jones.
Oh, my God, she's been to the other side.
Humphrey, I hope you're in a good controlling mood tonight.
Just feel in need of a drink, that's all.
Would you like a drink too, Miss Armadine?
Oh, my dear, how very kind of you. Thank you, yes.
Agnes?
Oh, Eunice, dear. After all, this is television, you know. And what good am I going to be if I don't win the quiz?
Quiz?
Yes, that is why I'm here, isn't it?
Oh, my God.
I'll have a gin, please, dear. Ice? No, thank you. That's an American habit, isn't it? And no tonic water either, thank you. I'll have it just as it comes, I think. It's stronger that way.
Agnes?
Auntie, darling.
Oh, Maurice, darling. Oh, how well you're looking. You've got quite a tan. Have you been away?
It's makeup.
Oh, really, dear? Oh, what a very good idea. It suits you.
We're so delighted you could come, but we'd like you to get to makeup right away. We're about to start. Jenny, darling, could you see that she gets...
Do I have a tan, too?
We start in 5 minutes.
Oh, well, do you think I could have another little one in there just to take with me, please? And would it be all right if I knit?
Knit?
Yes.
Oh, don't be ridiculous, Agnes. People aren't going to turn their television to watch you knitting.
Well, I did hope to get my jacket finished. Now that I've got the wool, that is.
It would keep the devil at bay, wouldn't
Oh,
it,
for God's sake, Drusilla, don't encourage her. It's going to be murder.
Enough as it is. Oh.
Surely you're an old hand at this sort of thing, Miss Ardley.
It's just the thought, darling, sitting in front of all those studio lights, not knowing who might be lurking beyond.
Now, Drusilla, keep that ghastly sense of melodrama for that wicked column of yours. Now, everybody, please, onto the set. Humphrey, excuse me.
Something else. It's through there. Take it.
There's a frustrated actress in there trying to get out. I don't want her to get shrieky just because some idiot wrote those notes.
Well, good luck.
I think you're going to need that in the gallery.
Do you mean they're all like her around here?
Excuse me, would you like to come to the gallery now, Mrs. Temple?
Be brilliant.
What else?
Mr. Temple. I have a queer feeling about tonight. Something terrible's going to happen.
Three minutes to the clock, Miss Dalton.
Thank you, love. Now keep it close.
Excuse me. Are you quite sure that all these cables running under my seat are safe?
Good luck, everybody.
Well, I'm very worried. Are you quite sure about that? Really?
What's the matter?
She says she's frightened of electricity.
Of what?
That's what she says.
Oh, my God.
All right, studio, stand by, please. Stand by.
I'm terrified. Let's go home.
Just like that?
Unless you've got a better idea.
Well, how about appearing on a TV show?
Brute. You might at least hold my hand.
Metaphorically.
Any way you like. Those notes weren't sent for nothing.
No, I know.
You know?
Well, at least I suspect. But then that's what discussing murder's all about, isn't it? Well, listen.
Time for the chat up, Mr. Dean.
How are you feeling now?
Right. Quiet, please. Mr. Humphrey Dean, Chairman of Guilty Party.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Now, in a show like Guilty Party, you, the audience, play a very, very important part. Not merely do you create the right atmosphere, but you help to keep all of us here on our toes. So, if in the course of the program some member of the panel comes out with a brilliant witticism, I beg you, feel free to laugh. But, however witty any of the remarks may be, even if they have the subtlety of Bernard Shaw, or the astringency of Dorothy Parker, please don't applaud, because I'll be livid for not having thought of it myself. And secondly, and far more important, applause does tend to hold the show up. One more thing. Now, from time to time, you will find yourselves on camera, and you'll be able to see yourselves on the monitors up there. Not that you'll be looking, of course, because you'll be far too fascinated by what's going on up here. But if you do happen to glance up and catch sight of yourself and the pretty girl next to you on the screen, please try and ignore it. The screen, I mean, not the pretty girl. Now, ladies and gentlemen, on a far more serious note, Guilty Party is a program in which we try to solve a hitherto unsolved crime. The crime tonight is murder. And who knows, we might just point the finger at the guilty person. And my floor manager down there is making some strange, wild signs at me, which means we are coming...
Oh, £125,000. I'm sorry.
Give or take a shilling or two, yes. Now, the raid was a success. A gang of 3 men rammed the van, immobilized the crew, and made off with the money. Now, none of this was ever recovered. But, in a way, this raid was a failure.
Oh, in what way?
The getaway car crashed into a stationary paraffin lorry.
And with what result?
Both men in the car were burned to death.
Mr. Margolis, I thought you said there were 3 raiders.
No, there were. But between the scene of the hijacking and the spot where the crash took place, one of those men disappeared.
With the money or without it?
Oh, with, most definitely with.
Mr. Margolis, what is the tie-up between that and the murder of Lucy Walters?
Well, I believe that the man who disappeared with the money handed it on to someone else, a 4th member of the gang, Lucy Walters.
Is this a fact or supposition?
Well, it's supposition, but it's based on fact. Walters was identified as one of the raiders. Now, that news came through to me at Fetchingham within half an hour or so of the raid.
What did you do then?
I went round to Beach Cottage to get Mrs. Walters.
Oh, really? Why?
I imagine to see whether one of the charred bodies from the wreck was her husband's.
Yes, and was it?
Oh, yes, no doubt about that, though it took me a heck of a long time to do such a simple job.
Now, why such a long time?
Because when I got to Beach Cottage, Mrs. Walters wasn't there.
Sensible woman. Well, if her husband was out working, why shouldn't she be out enjoying herself?
For heaven's sake, you're making crime sound almost noble as an occupation.
I'm talking entirely from a woman's point of view. Work comes first in far too many marriages these days.
Really, I think Mr. Margolis's point was that far from being out enjoying herself, Mrs. Walters was in fact working alongside her husband.
Quite right, Mr. Temple. Now, Mrs. Godfrey, would you mind?
What, Inspector?
I think Mr. Margolis would like to ask you some questions, Mrs. Godfrey.
Well, why doesn't he then?
Ladies and gentlemen, I should perhaps explain that Mrs. Godfrey lived in the house next to Beach Cottage.
I still do.
And being neighbours of the Walters, came to know them quite well.
I knew him. He was rather a decent man, I always thought. A bit strange, perhaps, but then I suppose some of our English ways might seem a bit strange to him.
How about Mrs. Walters?
Well, how forthrightly may I answer that question?
In your own words, Mrs. Godfrey.
She was a dreadful woman.
Oh, Mother,
Quite dreadful.
Now, why do you say that?
Well, because you asked me.
Each other. Well, that depends on how much he hates being proved wrong.
Does Paul know something new about this case?
Coming to 2. Paul, you were saying?
I was trying to say that Bernard Donnelly did not kill Lucy Walters. He couldn't have done.
Rubbish.
Excuse me. Mrs. Donnelly, would you mind coming up, please? Do forgive me, but I think this is somebody we should hear from. Thank you very much. Right up. Is this all right? Yeah. Could we have another chair? Thank you.
Sit down, Mrs. Donnelly.
Now then, would you tell us your name first of all?
I'm Mary Donnelly.
And you are?
Bernard's mother, yes.
Tell us about Bernard. What was he like, Mrs. Donnelly?
Well, he wasn't a bad lad. Oh, he used to steal and all that, but he got that from his father.
Bernard's had a lot of trouble in his life, hasn't he?
Wasn't very bright, he.
Got one solid shred of evidence.
Haven't I? Go and talk to the psychiatrist, talk to the handwriting experts.
Really,
Once again, guilty parties alive with controversy. Ladies and gentlemen, if I may at this moment summarize what we've heard so far. Now, we've heard from Mr. Margolis the probability that this crime was committed for money. Mr. Temple, on the other hand, has hinted it wasn't...
No, I'm not hinting, actually. I'm putting forward this theory very seriously.
Mr. Temple is suggesting, then, that Bernard Donnelly could not have killed Lucy Walters because violence was against his nature, and secondly, he was already dead at the time of Lucy Walters' death.
Yes, that's right. For some reason, she deliberately identified the wrong body. Now,
she did not.
Who else was in the mortuary at the time?
I was.
And you're sure it was Walters?
Yes.
You have no doubt that the body she identified was her husband's?
Look, Temple, let us just assume for a moment that, for whatever reason, Mrs. Walters and I were mistaken in our identification of the body, that the dead man was, after all, Bernard Donnelly.
Yes.
Now, all right. Now, who was it, then, who killed Lucy Walters?
Well,
I suppose we're all...
About Lucy Walters, Mrs. Godfrey, what was she like? I mean, you must have known her pretty well.
Oh, I mind my business, and I expect others to do the same. Besides, she was very secretive.
Well, what about you, Mr. Godfrey? Did you have anything to do with Lucy Walters?
Oh, yes. She was interested in antiques.
Oh, really? That's your line, isn't it?
Oh, yes, I have my own shop. Bygones and antiques.
Oh, very grand now. My little house suited him well enough for 36 years, and then all of a sudden he ups and leaves me. Sets himself up in business and moves out.
And that would be when?
1965. I remember it very well.
About a year after the robbery, yes?
What exactly are you getting at, Mr. Temple?
I think he's wondering where you got the money so suddenly to start your business.
That was my own money. Every penny of it. As a matter of fact, I won it on the football pools.
The football pools? Yes. Yes, he won £16,000. Wasn't he lucky?
All that money, and I never saw a penny of it.
Well, he did insist that I should take a little, just for allowing him to use my address. Do you understand?
How much?
£1,000. Oh, such a very generous boy, especially to me. He's been so good to me. Actually, it was Maurice who gave me my lovely new electric alarm clock, you know. Though I did tell him at the time it was very naughty of him to spend all that money on me.
Paul.
Because he knows very
Paul.
well, especially a thing like that. because he
Excuse me,
knows
I'm
I-
sorry to interrupt again, Miss Armadine, but there is just one other person I'd like to talk to. I spoke to her earlier on the telephone today. She lives in Canada now. This is Lucy Walter's sister, Galina Busansky. And I believe we're going to talk to her on the satellite link-up, aren't we?
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, at this moment we are going over to Toronto by satellite to talk to Mrs. Galina Wysansky, sister of the murdered woman. Good evening, Mrs. Wysansky. Can you hear me?
Pardon me?
I said, can you hear me?
Oh, that's better. It's okay now.
Good. Well, thank you very much, Mrs. Wysansky, for agreeing to answer some questions for us.
You're welcome.
Mrs. Wysansky, we haven't much time, so I'm handing you over now to Mr. Paul Temple.
Mrs. Wysansky, hello. I believe you received a letter from your sister shortly before she died.
That's right, yeah.
Would you mind telling us what it said?
Well, to tell you the truth, it was a little confused. Like she was in some sort of trouble, you know?
What did she say?
Oh, there was a whole lot about it.
Robbery.
Oh, yeah. I kind of got the impression it was going on all the time. I wrote her about it.
Anything else?
Well, yeah. She said... I don't know, this bit was really confused. Well, I gathered someone was upsetting her. She didn't say who or what about. She seemed, well, sort of frightened to me. You know, like something was going to happen soon. Something real big.
Well, what did you do?
Well, I phoned her and said, did she want to come over for a while? Zbyszek, that's my husband, he wouldn't mind paying the fare.
Yes, I don't imagine that Lucy was particularly short of money at that time, was she, Galina?
Well, no. And then she'd be free to come.
And that was the last time you spoke to her?
Yeah.
Just one more question. At any time after the robbery, did you hear from your sister that her husband Joseph had been killed or was dead?
No. No, I didn't.
Well, now, isn't that rather strange? I mean, if he had died in that crash, wouldn't you have been the first person to be told?
The new electric alarm clock.
Now, Auntie, darling, you don't mean that. You hated it from the day I gave it to you.
Well, only because it runs off electricity, dear. I never dare to touch it. Of course, I might be mistaken in the time, Mr. Temple. I'm not very good
Just a minute.
at
Excuse
that
me.
time.
I'm sorry. What was the date of this murder again?
Sunday, the 22nd of March, 1964.
I'm sorry. Ginny, would you mind stopping? There's something not quite right.
Go on. Now what does he want?
All right, Robert, stop recording. It's on to something. Give him time.
Ready again. Settle down, please, ladies and gentlemen. Stand by, Mr. Dean.
Well, Paul, you've created a mild sensation here, and we're all dying to know what it's all about.
Well, it's something that I think Mr. Margolis here will appreciate. You see, up to this point, there have been two conflicting facts which didn't make any sense to me.
But now...
Help me. Galina, Galina. All the time, she kept saying this name, Galina. Now, of course, everybody assumed that she was calling for her sister, Galina. I don't think she was. She wasn't saying Galina. She was saying Glina. Glina, which is Polish for...
Cop! Glina is Polish slang for policeman. Cop!
Get the police.
No!
Come on,
Get some bloody light on him!
Why did you do it? I loved her. Do you know what love is, Mr. Margulis? It's like a fire. It burns, hurts. When the fire is put out, you get cold. Very cold.
Please, everyone, keep calm.
You killed her! Why? Why should you do that? Was it the money?
You got the lot.
Every duty moment.
Good, good. Oh, by the way, I shall want to approve the final version before transmission.
Oh, just leave that to me.
Janine, I think that might be a bit dangerous.
What? Why?
I've been telling Paul about your taste for sensationalism.
So I'd like to vet the final version, eh?
Sorry, producer's prerogative.
Oh, really? Read the small print in my contract. I had my lawyer put it there specially. You have got a nasty reputation. Good night.
Mm-hmm.